All right, friends, since spring is hopefully knocking on our door very soon, I want to start talking about one of the first herbs you're probably going to start seeing pop up in your yard or areas around your home. If you've ever walked through a field in early spring and come back covered in a sticky plant, well, you've already met cleavers, right? Cleavers, botanically, is called Galium aparine, which, with this accent, I probably just butchered it, but anyway. It's that clingy little green plant. It sticks to your pants, your dogs, your sleeves, But if you know your plant families, it's kind of cool. It's in the same plant family as coffee, and it grows low and wild in moist soil, woodland edges, fence lines, disturbed grounds, right? And it climbs by using little hooked hairs along the stem and leaves, and this is why it grabs onto everything. Now, here's the cool part. Those little hooks are actually part of why traditional herbalists connected cleavers to the lymphatic system. It clings and moves through other plants, and energetically, it's seen as helping the body move fluids too, right? So they kind of took how the plant was moving and associated it with the body. But let's break this down more in basic terms, right? So your lymphatic system is basically your body's drainage and immune support network. Unlike your heart, the lymphatic system does not have a pump, and it relies on your movement and your hydration and just natural pressures. So when people feel puffy or stagnant or kind of sluggish, especially after winter, this is usually because you have a congested lymphatic system. So Cleavers has traditionally been used as a gentle lymphatic tonic. Gentle, right, being the key word. So this is not some dramatic detox herb, and it's not going to make you run to the bathroom, and it's not some harsh cleanser, right? It's supportive. And what I think is kind of important as well is the timing, right? When Cleavers shows up, it's very early in the spring. So if you think about how traditionally, right, food was preserved, and heavy foods in the winter, and a lot of canning and salts and stuff, right? People historically valued these early spring greens because they were fresh and moist and light after months of preserved and dense foods, right? So you weren't just dumping a whole bunch of greens on your gut at once. Cleavers is cooling and moist traditional herb. It's water rich and contains things like iodide glycosides and flavonoids. But here's something really important, right? Cleavers is best used fresh. Once you dry it, it loses a lot of its strength. It's delicate, it's really juicy. If you break it apart, your hands will get really moist. Dried Cleavers tea is significantly weaker than a fresh infusion would be. So if you're going to use it, what you want to do is you want to harvest it young before it flowers and gets fibrous. When it's tender and it's vibrant, right, then that really early spring is when it's at its best. So how do we use it, right? So you can make a fresh and fruit fusion, right, and steep it gently. You don't want to aggressively boil it, right? We're not trying to kill the compounds here. You can make other type of blended infusions, kind of steep it, fresh tinctures. The flavor is going to be light and grassy. Nothing dramatic, and it's that mild taste that usually tells you that this isn't a forceful herb, right? So traditionally, right, if you check all your herbal books and stuff, traditionally, Cleavers has been used to support your normal lymphatic movement, right? It can help with that puffiness that you kind of get. It'll offer gentle urinary support, and it's really helpful, just as a skin wash. I'm not going to make a Cleaver soap, but, is what it is. The soap process would kill the Cleavers. But I want to make something very clear because there's a lot of wild marketing out there, right? Cleavers, not a miracle detox plant, right? It's not going to pull the toxins out of your body. It doesn't cleanse your body in some extreme way, right? Let's remember, right? God created our body and it already knows how to detox, right? So you're just looking for something to support that natural detox of the body. Cleavers does this, right? It supports that system, which was already designed to function in a specific way. Okay, so now we're going to talk about identification of this plant because that really matters, right? So you're going to look for square stems, leaves that are arranged in circles, otherwise called as whorls around the stem, tiny hooked hairs, right, that make it cling. And later in the season, it'll have small white star-shaped flowers. I'm going to throw some pictures up around as we're talking about this too. Key points. Never harvest around sprayed yards, roadside edges, anything with heavy traffic, anything with questionable soil, right? And don't use it unless you've properly identified it, right? And as always, if you're pregnant, nursing, have medical conditions, make sure you talk to your doctor before using any herbs internally and even topically, right? So this spring, as things start to come back in your yard, I encourage you, right, to step outside and actually look at what's going on around you. Not everything growing in your yard's a weed. Not everything deserves Roundup, right? Some of it's seasonally wisdom, right, showing up on the right time. Cleavers, right, is one of those plants, right, that reminds us that support doesn't have to be aggressive, right, to our body, right? It can be quiet, it can be gentle, and it aligns with the seasons, right? And it comes for a very short time and leaves for that, that key young harvestable product. So if you find it, take a closer look, right? Learn about it, observe it. If you can and approve, right, harvest a little and experiment with it safely. Spring herbs aren't about dramatic detoxes. They're about re-engaging with what's growing around you. And that's the key point, right? So if this was helpful, let me know in the comments below. Tell me what's already popping up in your yard, right? All of us are in different growing seasons. And then in our next video, we're going to actually cover another herb that you're probably walking past as well and don't realize that you're stepping over and could be using it. So I appreciate you guys stopping by. I hope my little stuffy head didn't stumble over too much as I tried to force words out. Hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you next time.